to have a lot of, I guess, self-love for the paradigm structures they operate in, and it really comes across as sort of a closed-minded arrogance, and not just this particular discipline, but across many academic and scientific disciplines around the world. So why do you think they are so closed off, or just reject and explain away this data? And are they justifiable to do so? What's their justification for it?
Well, on the positive side, one of the values of science and the academic process in general is skepticism. I mean, it prevents people from falling down the wrong holes, basically. And so skepticism is very important to sharpen exactly what it is that people are talking about. The other thing is about the academic world that is basically, it's an ideological domain. It's all about ideas. And so if somebody builds their career based on an idea and they get promoted and they get recognized and so on, they're going to defend that idea as though their life was at stake, because in some respects it is. That's their life, is the idea. So another reason is, and this, by the way, is not just for the kind of controversial work that I do, but any idea. If you look in journals in any discipline, you find people screaming at each other all the time about things that a non-academic won't even know what are you even screaming about? You know, they're things that are subtle from our perspective. So it's not too surprising that you get this kind of resistance in the academic world. And as I said, it's not really a bad thing. It only becomes bad when it reaches a level of prejudice, and it becomes impossible then to even publish these kinds of experimental research in mainstream journals, because the publishers say things, and I've seen this repeatedly. We'll submit something to a journal, and the editor will say, oh, this was really interesting, but I don't think I'm going to publish it. Well, why not? And one of the answers I got was that it would bewilder the readers of the journal that such a thing was published. To which I'm thinking, are you kidding? It would bewilder the readers to have something of that sort published, even though there's nothing wrong with it. To use like the same methods used in every other article is published in the journal, except that it's talking about something which is a little bit strange. So if readers are so bewildered and shocked that easily, that's not a good thing. That's not a good aspect of the posturing that has to take place within an ideological constraint, which is not only academia, it's true in politics and everywhere else. So one of my interests and reasons that I continue to do this kind of research is not only curiosity about the phenomena, but a kind of a fascination about the sociology of science. When I was going through education, I never even heard anybody talking about that science had a sociology about it. But of course it does. It's a human enterprise. And like any other human enterprise, there are politics, there's jealousy, there's vain behavior, there's every form of human foible that you can imagine that is part of the mix. At least there's the aspiration that people are going to be rational about evaluation of evidence. But I've seen so many cases where people are not acting rationally that I think it's just fascinating to watch it.
Well, you brought up something that is actually something that is discussed in sort of my circles where I write and who I speak to, and that is the scientism or the dogma or the assumptions, or as you say, the politics that happens in the scientific field. And it's normally assumed in society, mainstream sort of consciousness, that science is this objective, rational, unbiased, operating procedure that is, a sort of modern day savior. It's like it's a rationalism that is above all else, and it's kicking religion's ass and all these things. But as you say, it's a human enterprise, and it really does have the negative and positive quality that come along with any human enterprise. This is such an important area that I really think that needs to be put on the table for society, because and it obviously it has been through people like yourself and Rupert Sheldrake and Graham Hancock and many others who are actually calling out the discipline for their biased and dogmatic behaviours. So if general society can begin to start talking about it too, maybe they wouldn't feel so chuffed in sort of maintaining the status quo that they fight vehemently to achieve. So,
well, I hope that you're right, but of course the history shows that bureaucracies at some point exist only to sustain themselves, and so it'd be very, very unusual for an existing academic site to change too radically too fast. So I think what may happen if academia keeps going the way it's been going for the last 500 years or so, what's more likely to happen is that new generations will come along with slightly new ideas, and so it'll slowly evolve towards a greater openness to these kinds of phenomena, not so much because the evidence is getting better, although it is, but more so because if you kind of look at a meta level of the worldview that science is creating, it's becoming slowly more and more open to the idea of quantum biology, and maybe it's not quantum, but there are strange things that occur in the mind. Some of it's coming out of the research now in meditation. So the reason why my last book was Super Normal, and it was all about advanced practices associated with meditation, that whole tradition leads exactly into psychic phenomena. And that was the point of writing about it, that we're on the verge now it's okay in the academic world to study meditation. Well, what happens when we started studying advanced meditators? People who regularly experience these kinds of things. That will slowly start changing the taboo that prevents this from being openly discussed in the academic world.